Hello everyone, welcome to the 13th video of on Aristotle's Poetics. So in this video I will be talking about part 16 and part 17 of Poetics text. Out of 26 chapters, chapter 16 as well as chapter 17 will be discussed in this section. So, part 16 talks about the kinds of recognition. It told about the need for recognition as a part of inspiring or a part of bringing out the element of surprise. With two elements can bring actually the kind of surprise, that is with anagnorisis and peripeteia. Both can bring a kind of surprise, and that's how we can make a plot complex, which is preferred by Aristotle. But here he talks about, this is just about 6 kinds of recognition Aristotle lists out in this part. The first kind of recognition, that can be by sign or marks, that is by tokens, that is the least artistic of that kind. Just think about some marks on the body of a character that brings an element of or a kind of recognition. A scene is portrayed with a recognition just by identifying some marks on the body, marks, marks on the body, or by some external tokens like a necklace or something. So that is the usual kind of necklace she wears. So this is that woman. So a missing character or someone is recognized by someone else. So that is a very least, or it's a very less artistic. It cannot be appreciated. Aristotle doesn't appreciate such kind of a recognition, element of recognition brought by some identifying marks or something. And second one is the recognition made directly by the poet. Sometimes poet himself tells like, I have recognized all this. See, that's about interruption on the part of narrative voice, poetic voice. The third one is about the recognition through memory. All of a sudden, a man's consciousness being awakened by something seen or heard. Sometimes we come across such recognitions. That is recognition through memory, even in some movies and all. A person who has been in forgetfulness and all of a sudden he or she recognizes something, realizes something, comes to identify even his or her own identity. So all these are made use even now in other visual media as well, or in our other narrative forms as well, not just in tragedy, but Aristotle wanted to list out all these as part of tragic recognition. And fourth one is the recognition through reasoning. It's about, just let me talk about, let me get an example for that. My sister was sacrificed and I am to be sacrificed like her. That is a kind of reasoning, and that brings a kind of, that's again, that also can be a kind of recognition that can move the plot in its own way. Again, that also is another kind of recognition. And fifth one is false reasoning, even more problematic. That is sophistic deception. Just think about a composite discovery arising from bad reasoning on the side of the other party. A bad reasoning means there is nothing sensible in it. Sometimes if you have to get more idea about that, we have to mention, or we have to go along with some of the plays and the situations which made use of this, some of the tragic incidents or tragic portrayals which make use of this. If you want, we can go on with that's all. Otherwise, it is just about some listing out. That is more than enough, and just having an idea about this that is more than enough in this situation. And the sixth one is about the recognition that he tells to be somewhat preferable. That is arising from the incidents or actions by means of a well constructed plot. And of course, we always know Aristotle prefers every element he attaches with the tragedy coming out of the very plot itself, the structure of the plot itself. He prefers that kind of even the element of pity and fear arising out of the very structure of the plot instead of the spectacular effects. We have already seen that. So in that regard, here recognition also arising out of some of the incidents the very structure, well constructed plot, that also is a kind of that also brings a kind of recognition, but that is the discovery through reasoning that follows, and he prefers that in one way. And then we move to part 17 of the book. It is titled Practical Advice to the Author. Not in every, please remember, not in every version of the translated, not every translated version of Aristotle's Poetics holds this, but the book that I refer holds that, but again that is helpful in one sense. And practical advice to the author, you see here, he tells that at the time when he is constructing his plots and engaged on the diction in which they are worked out, the poet should remember all these. What are the points he has to remember? We get some 3 points given by Aristotle. First is to put the actual scenes as far as possible before his eyes. Not just a tragic writer, but every artist is advised to or recommended to do that, because we are anyway portraying, we are representing something, because every art is a kind of imitation as far as Aristotelian view is concerned. So, to keep the actual scenes always in front of our eyes, kind of recollection, always going for a recollection will help for the perfection of their portrayal. In this way, seeing everything with the vividness of an eyewitness as if he were a spectator of the action, he will devise what is appropriate and be most likely to overlook incongruities. That is the main thing. That is, he is almost like a spectator in that case. He may be representing some characters from history, not at all always lifelike incidents, not always something from history or real life incidents, but to keep always that scenes happening in front of the eyes. That will bring the effect of a spectator, an eyewitness account, the precision of an eyewitness account in that portrayals on the part of this person. So, vividness of an eyewitness as if he were a spectator. And then that will again most likely to overlook incongruities. That will bring, sometimes we will be able to overcome the incongruities. In that, incongruities means something not appropriate, something that is not matching to the situation. Incongruities, matchless, something matchless. So, this is about that. All those can be avoided if you function as a one while you are writing, while you are constructing a plot. If you go on with the precision of an eyewitness, as a spectator, you are looking, you are always witnessing that event, and then your words follow that. Then you are having a precise account of for the narration. And then second one, the poet should even act his story with the very gesture of his personages, given the same natural qualifications. He who feels the emotions to be described will be the most convincing. Just think that sometimes you are enacting, like sometimes you feel like the playwright, you means the playwright enacts like, or sometimes the personages are imbibed. And then given the same natural qualifications, he who feels the emotions to be described will be the most convincing. Distress and anger are portrayed most truthfully, because you are one with the character, you are just in touch with the character, the natural tragic flow as well as the emotions and all those feelings you are taking for granted. The playwright is taking for granted, and then writing the same will bring more impact, more effect for his or her narration, and then also that will be an additional, that will also add quality to your plot. And the third advice is to on the part of Aristotle is his story, whether already made or is of his own making, he should first simplify it and reduce it to a universal form before proceeding to lengthen it out by the insertion of episodes. That is it. So, most likely it is better for a writer, even if he creates it or already made, whether already made or if it is his own making. That means either from historical events, you are making a play, you are writing a play, or your own creative energy you spend to make a plot or to write a plot. In that both cases, you should first simplify it. That means that reducing it to a universal form, that is, it is meant for a multi-faceted audience, that is a heterogeneous audience you mean. You cannot tell that after writing a play, you cannot tell that this is meant for a very learned kind of audience, this is meant only for professionals of this kind or that kind, this is not meant for the people below this age. You cannot tell that. So that there is a better advisable, that is a better recommendation on the part of Aristotle, that if it is for all, if it is applicable to everyone, that will be better. So this is the way we can talk about this, reducing that to a universal form, that will be for everyone, that will be somewhere a kind of universality, or at least an approachability. The plot will be approachable to every kind, it will be enjoyed by most. And then before proceeding to lengthen it, unlikely lengthening, sometimes just adding many episodes, so there is a simplification needed, and that is highly preferable. And this is the way Aristotle gives some practical advices that can be followed by any writer, not just the writers of tragedy, but here he means, in the context of poetics, we can tell that he means mostly of the playwrights of tragedy, the writers of tragedy he means. Still, these are some kind of advices or instructions that can be followed by anyone. So that's all with the part 17. Thank you.